with WrestleSphere, we're starting something that will create opportunities and communicate to another generation of journalists that this is something you can do. This is
Yeah,
something you can absolutely have a job doing one day, and it's not like it's not a dream to be a gaming journalist or a wrestling journalist. If you are one of the people on those courses, like at UCLan, doing journalism at uni and things like that, you are in the top bracket of people.
what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talk Trash, and stand back for another video. This time, I'm joined by the one and only Sam Smith from Deserto, Give Me a Whole Yeah, and now WrestleSphere. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tom. It's been a while. It's like we've done this before.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you again, my friend. So if we take this back, Sam, for people that may not know, as we've grown a bit and things like that, where do you first discover wrestling as an overall fan?
I knew about it from things like Hulk Hogan and things like that. But I think I first truly discovered it around my friend's house, and it was a WrestleMania. I'm not going to tell you which one. I'll let people guess. But the main event was Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart. A double turn was involved, and I thought it was obviously at the time I thought it was real. I was just a kid, but I soon discovered it wasn't, and it was storytelling, and I became very invested in that. I sought it out afterwards. It's funny actually because I didn't realize there was a difference between WWF and WCW back then. I just thought wrestling was wrestling. So I started watching WCW on a Friday night on Channel 5. Fell in love with like Sting and Goldberg and the NWO and all those storylines. Then I realized WWF was two different and WCW were two different things. And I became a fan of both simultaneously. So weirdly, I've always been, and I didn't understand why people were so committed to watching one or watching the other. I was like, well, dude, why wouldn't you just watch both? Both are awesome. So even like 11-year-old me had a problem with tribalism in wrestling, and here we are today, and it's not really changed.
So you talked about it not really changing when it comes to tribalism. As we sit here in 2024, in February of 2024, tribalism is obviously still quite big in wrestling when it comes to AEW and WWE. So where do you stand on that tribalism?
This is going to be controversial, but I think if you're not watching both, and I include TNA as well, if you're not watching all three, then you're missing out. And even if you're not, and you're not really feeling one of them, that's okay. But then to then argue on the internet with people who do watch more than one is frankly bizarre in my view. I'm someone who hates the word or, and I love the word and. I don't want chips and vegetables. I want both. I'm not just going to play Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo. I'm going to play both or all three. Same with wrestling. I don't get why people can't see that competition is good and it creates more opportunities for the wrestlers to work and all the other people who work in the industry as well, not just wrestlers, but all the people who help these promotions work and do what they do. It's having multiple promotions is brilliant if you're a fan because you get to watch more and different flavors of wrestling. The idea of just picking one and fighting against the people who like the others is just mind-boggling to me. And I've never heard a good argument to the opposite of that. I often will intervene on social media. I see the AEW guys and the WWE guys just going at each other. I'll just go, it's okay to watch both, question mark. And two things happen there. They either all just go quiet because they had never understood that, or they both turn on you. Because the one thing worse than a WWE guy or an AEW guy is a guy who watches both and doesn't fight with other fans. So
yeah,
so that's where I stand now. We will have some pieces going up on WrestleSphere soon, poking a little bit of fun at tribalism and basically pointing out in more detail than I have done today why it's completely stupid.
You talked about WrestleSphere there. That's a great segue. How did it come about that your good self and the great man is Dom Smith decided to start your own wrestling website then?
Well, that's what a lot of people don't know about WrestleSphere, and they should. Is WrestleSphere is part of SoundSphere,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
sorry,
something.
I should have said that really.
No, don't worry, don't worry. That's the genesis of it. So the genesis of it is Dom approaching me and saying, I'm doing more and more wrestling content on SoundSphere, but I can't do it all on my own. Do you want to come in and help out? And after SoundSphere got access at Clash at the Castle, we got an increasing amount of opportunities from WWE, from TNA, from AEW, and a few others. And so there was more work to go around than Dom could feasibly do on his own. So, he knew me, he trusted me. So he said, "Do you want to do a bit for me?" A bit became a lot. And I got to the point where I said to Dom, because we were having a bit of an issue with some of the promoters like WWE and AEW only seeing us as like a music website. And so they were only really giving us access if it had a musical bent. So we started WrestleSphere to kind of say, look, we're full on to do more and more and more wrestling content.
Mm.
We now even have our own brand like around it. Um, so it just made sense to make our own website. And like it's only really been live now a year and a month, and we've already been to WrestleMania with it. We've went to Money in the Bank, to All In. We eventually, Dom and I, there was too much work to go around as well, so we brought in Andy Spores. So we made our duo a triumvirate, which is great, and we'll probably grow from there as well. Like we have a lot of freelancers and other like industry experts who we bring in now and then to handle different things. So where the core team is Don, me, and Andy, we also have other people in the family, like the Give Me a Holy Air Boys supporters and stuff as well, like Dan and Ann.
Mm.
But WrestleSphere was different from Give Me a Holy Air in the fact that we could be proper journalists here. We could write proper articles, examine things objectively. It meant we had to stick to the rules that everybody else needs to stick to as well, which is fine. But Give Me a Holy Air, we can let our hair down a little bit more and just be fans. Um, but yeah, that's how it came into being, and since then it's gone from strength to strength. Social media pages, websites getting more hits, things like that. So it's a slow but steady wins the race. But
Mm.
we've had more like growth and success with it than we actually thought we'd have within the first year, which is amazing.
Mm. You talked about some of the rules that not that you now have to follow as a journalistic site, but yeah, for lack of a better word, the rules that you now have to follow as a journalistic site. So for people that may not know, peel back the curtain. What are some of those rules that you may have to follow as an actual journalistic site now, rather than just a YouTube channel where, in your own words, you can let your hair down?
Well, it's the same rules any journalist needs to follow in any walk of life in any industry. You can't just go like we at WrestleSphere, we wanted to be the anti-dirt sheet. That
Mm.
was something we came up with together. We thought, right, let's be the opposite. Let's not post any articles about rumor or this might have happened. Like even if we do hear something, but we're not 100% airtight about it. We're not going to write an article saying we heard this rumor or other people are talking about this rumor. We only post stuff now if it's come from the horse's mouth. It's not like we're rewriting press releases or anything like that. We will speak to the wrestlers directly. We'll interview them. We'll learn what they think about things, and then we'll write an article based on that. Or we'll produce some news when we know it's completely, exclusive to us. We've been given it, and we're putting it on there. So you're not going to ever see any articles about so and so might have this might have happened backstage. No disrespect to all the platforms that do that, but there's enough of them, and we don't need to do that. And it's also kind of what I say about the rules. It's about knowing what's professional to do.
Mm.
Um, like there may come a time we might have to post something that WWE, AEW, or whoever might not like because that's what journalists have to do sometimes. But it's about not just spouting opinion. Like if we do have opinion and we are leaning into that more with some of our opinion pieces, we're labeling it as such. We're not going to go on there and say,
Opinion warning, for lack of a better word.
well, it's not even that. Well, it's we will write features that are opinion. Andy wrote one the other day that was amazing, all about what goes on with WrestleMania at the moment, and that was him as Andy representing WrestleSphere, giving his view as an expert and as a fan. But if we do any interviews with wrestlers, which the majority of our content is interviews with different wrestlers, that is about who they are in and out of the ring, and we want to try and focus on what they're doing in the here and now, but also make it about them and their career and where they want to go from here. And we don't amazingly like we don't see many places doing that, just doing these interviews where you sit down and have a chat with them. Um, like the other day with Rosemary and Havoc from TNA,
Mm.
who are Decay. That was the last one. And at the end of the interview, Rosemary says, "Well, thank you very much, Samuel." Uh, Nobody calls me Samuel apart from my mum, so that alone was just so weird, but awesome. And that's the sort of thing where we are having conversations with wrestlers. They're not like interviews that you might see in other places. We are just having chats with them, and we're asking people things we really want to know, and other wrestling fans want to know.
You talked about what makes WrestleSpear different from other dirt sheets, and not dirt sheets, other sites was the word I was looking
Yeah.
for. Sorry, that was the word I was looking for. But then, how do you know? Because I know for a time you were splitting content between Give Me a Hole Yeah and WrestleSpear. So how do you know, like, this is a more fun interview, this can go on Give Me a Hole Yeah, and how do you know this is an interview that needs to go on WrestleSpear and not Give Me a Hole Yeah?
Well, generally speaking, we don't do interviews and stuff on Give Me a Whole Year anymore. So any content any interviews or all that sort of stuff that was on Give Me a Whole Year, we've kind of moved that over to WrestleSphere. Because let's be honest, this Dom is co-owner of Give Me a Whole Year with Ant, but he's the owner of WrestleSphere. So Anthony doesn't mind WrestleSphere picking up some of the interviews and stuff and popping them over there, keeping that journalistic and taken care of. Where Give Me a Whole Year, that frees Give Me a Whole Year up really to be basically us just hanging out with our friends talking about wrestling, which is because the whole point of Give Me a Whole Year is very different to WrestleSphere. The purpose of Give Me a Whole Year is to build a community, for people to hang out, share ideas, discuss things. It's a very different thing. Like, yeah, the two are affiliated, but one's a journalistic endeavor. One is a group of eccentric lads who are wrestling fans, and all very, very different, but all very, very, very similar at the same time. Just interacting, having a bit of fun, doing watch alongs. Like, yeah, we do a bit of analysis and we discuss what we think about things. But Give Me a Whole Year now is a podcast. Well, it's always been a podcast where WrestleSphere is a journalistic endeavor.
So you talked about Give Me a Whole Yeah and WrestleSphere there. We've gone around our houses, but you know, Sam, that's how my interviews go. And I do apologize
Okay.
for that.
No,
It's
no,
like,
no.
how, for people that may not know, how do you first connect with Dom and the Give Me a Whole Yeah crew and things like that?
Yeah. So this would be amazing to anybody who's ever attended any of UCLan, University of Central Lancashire's CJAM events, because I was once a student there who I don't even know if I pitched Dom. I think I just asked him a couple of questions. I was a mature student there, and I just we connected there, and we connected after that. We had a couple of chats back and forth. We became quite friendly. Um, and I then started freelancing for SoundSphere, doing some wrestling stuff, some gaming stuff, all that sort of stuff. And he now, and this is funny because he was trying to bring me in to give me a whole year for a while. He was like, "Do you fancy staying up till 3 a.m. with me and watching wrestling pay-per-views and wrestling shows?" And I'm like, "No, mate, I really don't. I don't want to do that. No disrespect, pal, but I don't want to. Like, that sounds absolutely terrible." But then I actually did a couple of guest shows where I came on, and like times where I was already staying up late anyway, so I came on stream. And you've watched my early streams compared to the ones now. I'm a rabbit in the headlights in them, and now I'm actually quite confident. I always have a hat on, and it's a completely different guy. But I did a few, and I got the bug. I really got the bug. And Dom took a little bit of time away from it, and I kind of picked up SmackDown, and sort of that's now my thing, and it's almost like I've done it forever. So with like Dan doing Raw, Anthony doing Dynamite, I do SmackDown. We have Andy join us as a special guest sometimes. We have other special guests as well that we bring in, like Dan from Eve, you know, Eve Wrestling in the UK, things like that. So I found myself just doing that more and more and more. And then the more I did that, the more then WrestleSphere kicked off on the side. Because he also brought me into not just be a host on the show, but to kind of, because I have a background in marketing and
Yeah.
PR and things like that, just to look at us, make us more of a brand, streamline some of the things we were doing, pick up the social media, and it kind of became almost a second job in itself. So that's where we are with Give Me a Hold Yeah now. And Give Me a Hold Yeah now has a renewed focus on certain things. We're still being experimental and stuff like that, but Dom kind of um, what's the term? I don't want to say gaslit because he'll tell me off, but made the case slowly but surely invited me, and that invitation became more and more and more appealing until and about a few months later, I'm going to WrestleMania with them all, and it's like,
Yeah,
wow, how did this happen? But so there we are. So that's the genesis of my involvement in Give Me a Hole, yeah. Um, I was like, I was number four, but we kind of completed the set, and then we added Andy as well for some extra pretty garnish.
yeah, I agree. So you talked about going to WrestleMania there and stuff like that. How do you balance it, not only with your work with Deserto, which is still your full-time job, if I
Yep.
understand that correctly, but
All right.
also your marriage to your good lady wife, that is Jess. Check out my interview with Jess if you haven't checked that one out yet. Sorry, plug, must. Sorry.
Well, she'll get more views than me. That's for
Mm.
damn sure. Just look at
How
it.
do you, how do you balance it with, like, for example, Deserto gives you a job and they're like, this has got to be done on the Saturday. How do you balance that with, oh, but I've got to do a SmackDown stream on the Friday, like early hours of the morning? How do you balance that sort of work?
Well, in terms of work-life balance, very, very, very badly. I just kind of don't stop working. But the thing is, with my work, my dog's going to break in again. Oh, he's not.
Uh-oh.
No, he won't. The thing with work-life balance is because all the things I love are part of my job. It's kind of non-existent, and I don't really mind because I was never going to be a 9 to 5 guy. And even when I was kind of a 9 to 5 guy in older jobs, it was never even doing something I loved and was good at. It was never for me. Where it's
Mm.
only now in my like mid to late 30s have I actually got to a point where I love every inch of what I do, be it for Deserto, be it for Give Me a Whole Yeah, be it for WrestleSphere. Now the good news is none of these things kind of get in each other's way. So um, from most of the working week, I belong to Deserto, and in the evenings, my evenings of my own, and I'll then go and I'll spend some time doing some stuff for WrestleSphere, and maybe I'll hop on a Give Me a Whole Yeah stream as well. So all of them are quite segmented, and they don't get in each other's way really. So with Deserto being my main employer, I make sure that, because my hours are generally 9 to 5, so I do
Yeah.
stay behind some bits sometimes as well. And I work from home, so that's great. But I make sure that between those hours, when I'm on a Deserto shift, that is all I do. I am writing about video games and all the other fun stuff I do there. And I don't touch WrestleSphere or Give Me a Hall yet. But once that finishes and I've walked the dogs and I've been to the gym, then I'll go into WrestleSphere mode.
Mm. So you talked about how you stay in work mode, but then how does Sam switch off when he knows, okay, I need to spend some time with my good wife and things like that? How do you switch off? Because everything you cover, for lack of a better word, is things that other people might use to switch off.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I ever properly do. Because we've got about Dom will tell you we've got about 50 flipping WhatsApp groups for different things as well. One for WrestleSphere, one for Give Me a Hole, yeah, one for all of us who went to WrestleSphere as part of like almost the joint WrestleSphere Give Me a Hole, yeah, one as well. Things like that. So I kind of don't. I watch wrestling and play games for fun because they're two of the things I absolutely love. But there are times where I'll switch off from wrestling, switch off from gaming, and Jess and I'll watch a film, or we'll go out for some dinner or and a drink. And it's like it's my anniversary on the 15th. There will be no wrestling and gaming. On those days, it'll be just me and her doing what we do. So that's how I switch off. But it's like I said about work-life balance, because those two things are so intermingled. I've just kind of accepted it, and it's if something isn't done by the time I want a bit of leisure time, then I'll just have to just get it done.
Mm.
And then it's a case of when does leisure time begin and work time end. Like watching wrestling for me, I don't know even I've lost track of what's for work and what's for pleasure now. And it's the same with gaming because I'm very very fortunate enough to get to play a lot of games that I might be reviewing them, so I might have them early. Like at the moment, playing something. Um, let's say it's a fantasy come true that I'm currently playing through right now. It's a rebirth, if you will. And I'm very much enjoying that. But I have to find because I've got so many guides I want to write about it before that game comes out. I find myself staying up very very late at night, getting through that game because I want to have it completed by the time it comes out at the end of the month. And that, as fun as it is, soon evolves into work when there's other things you might want to do. You might want to go to the pub, but you need more hours in this game. So that's when it starts bleeding into that. But I mean, those are very, very first world problems. So,
Yeah.
so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I see what you're saying completely there. So when you talk about first world problems and things like that, a first world problem that I'm sure we all experience is both imposter syndrome and burnout. So when you were invited on the Give Me a Whole Yeah streams and things like that, did you have a moment where you were like, do I belong here? And then what was the moment where you were like, yeah, I do belong here, sort of thing?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a little bit boring, a little bit dry. Um, for Give Me a Haul, yeah, but it turns out people actually do make an effort to watch the streams I do, which I still
Mm,
find bizarre. Um, and I still do get people DMing me and asking me questions and wanting to know what I think about certain things going on in wrestling. So I find that like the imposter syndrome with Give Me a Haul, yeah, doesn't really hit me so much anymore. And I've worked hard to put it to bed. I remember being at the Money in the Bank press conference and I'm chatting to people like Sean Ross Sapp and other people, and I'm stood at the water fountain having a laugh with Bailey and
mm,
other people. Like I met Mark Andrews, and he was a lovely guy. And we had some banter with Pretty Deadly and LA Knight and Santos Escobar. Actually said to WWE PRs at one point, no, 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 stop! I want to keep talking to these guys. So I remember just being in the room with all those people and being thinking, you know what? Screw imposter syndrome. I've got every right to be here. I've worked hard to be here, just like everybody else in the room. I'm not accepting that anymore. I still get it with other things. I still have a lot of insecurity sometimes around some of the video game journalism things. I sometimes feel like I'm not good enough there. Um, not anyone's fault or anything like that. It's just something I feel, and I don't know really what to do about that.
mm.
But on the wrestling side of things, no, not at all. We've opened a successful platform. It's running really really well, and I think with the wrestling stuff, I know I've been a driving force in that, and it is what it is because of a team effort, and I'm part of that team. I think with the other stuff, I sometimes struggle to know where I fit in, or if I wasn't there tomorrow, would that matter? So I struggle with
Mm.
that. I think that's because just it's a bigger company, and
Yeah.
the bigger the pond, the smaller of a fish you are. So that's the only imposter syndrome I get. I don't really get it around the wrestling stuff anymore. Um, I feel like I've succeeded in that sense, and the only way is up. But I do struggle with it on the other side. And every now and then you'll get someone saying to you, "Oh, you're right about wrestling. You're right about video games. When are you going to get a proper journalism job?" And like you get like comments like that sometimes, and that used to bother me. Where now it's like, dude, I write about wrestling and video games for a living. That's how I pay my mortgage. I don't need to apologize to anybody. That in many ways is winning the game with a high score or winning WrestleMania to me. That's what that is.
That's very, very cool. You talk about this is such a self-indulgent question, but you talk about the Clash at the Castle and things like that. I would love for you to tell the Sean Ross Sapp story that you told me about him knowing me and
Oh
me
yeah,
being really confused. I'd love for you to tell that story if you don't mind.
well, it wasn't Clash at the Castle. It was actually Money in the Bank.
Oh right, yeah.
No, no, don't worry. Well, we were all kind of because it was quite a small room. All the different journal, like you had Wrestle Talk here, we had Wrestle Sphere here, and then we had another group here. And Sean was chatting with Dom and a bunch of other guys. And when I was done recording Andy, who was there, I think representing Rush on Rock at that time, um, I turned around and Dom introduced me to Sean Ross Sapp, and I said hello to Sean, and I made a joke. I said, I believe Sean, I believe you and I have a mutual friend. Tom Talks Rubbish. I think he interviewed you a little while ago, and he instantly knew who you were. And we said, "Oh, I love that guy. Yeah, that's great. Oh, so he's interviewed you too. Oh, he's got it through everyone." And we had a little bit of a laugh, and then he got grabbed by WWE's PRs, and we went and then interviewed LA Knight. But I just thought it was really really funny, and I remember when you were feeling low at one point, and you were suffering
Oh
from
yeah.
imposter
Mm,
syndrome, and I think I said to you, mate, don't ever feel bad because you know Sean Ross Sapp knew who you were, but he didn't know who I was.
mm.
So don't, so if you ever feel bad about one of the biggest names other than Dave Meltzer, I suppose, in the world of wrestling journalism, knew about you before he knew anything about WrestleSphere. So there you go. And I think Nick Hausman as well is
Oh yeah.
included.
Yeah, because to peel the curtain back, the interview that went up last week was with our good friend Dom, and Dom sent me a picture that night because I was feeling really bad. I'd planned to go to Money in the Bank, but I'd had an epileptic seizure and things just didn't work out. I wasn't well enough, and I
Sure.
was feeling really bad. And Dom sends me this picture, and I'm like, he's like, Nick sends love, hope you're doing well, sort of thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
the amount of people in that room that know who I am, it's very weird.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same. It was really, really weird at Money in the Bank because Dom was sat next to Nick because for some reason they sat all the WrestleSphere guys separately. So I think Andy was on one side, I was smack bang in the middle, and Dom was over there with Nick Hausman. So I'm kind of waving over at Dom, and it's him and Nick Hausman going waving back, and Nick Hausman's probably thinking, "Who the hell are we waving at? Who the hell's that idiot in the hat over there?" Uh, but it was me. But yeah, so like him and Dom are quite friendly and chat a lot. With Dom being the editor of WrestleSphere and Soundsphere,
Yeah.
I'm just a deputy editor, so I just do all the other stuff. But
Mm.
yeah, it's nice to meet those guys. They've been very very supportive, and it's like that's what I say. I refuse to let imposter syndrome be a thing because I'm rubbing shoulders with them and getting opportunities that some of the biggest wrestling journalists in the world are getting. So I refuse to be I refuse to counter it, I suppose.
I get what you're saying completely there. One thing you brought up earlier that we saw brushed over, but it wasn't intentional, was Dom stepping away from the Give Me a Whole Year SmackDown streams. So when he says to you, before he announces it publicly, that he wants to step away, what was your reaction? Was you like a rabbit in headlights, or was you like, this is my opportunity, I've got to step up?
Neither, really. The idea of doing SmackDown on my own was a little bit scary, but I soon, you know, exercised those demons and I did it. Like with Dom, I think Dom is a very, very busy guy. I think people forget about that. Like his bandwidth is ridiculous. I've never known anybody to have
Yeah.
that amount of bandwidth, like with all the stuff he does in a day. Like you wouldn't believe it. Like does his gigs with his bands, runs a record label, runs WrestleSphere, runs Soundsphere, um, maintains the gaming stuff as well. Is a qualified is becoming a counselor,
The
so
mental
many other
health
things.
stuff.
Yeah, just yeah, all this stuff. It's I swear to God, there must be three of it. That's all I've got. I've got a theory that there are several clones of him, like all operating different things at different times. That's the only thing I can come up with. But so I completely understood when he said, "Look, I just need a little bit of a break, boys." And the late nights are probably getting to him as well. He's got to think about his health. He's got to think about energy and things like that. Don't we? Like we all do, I suppose. But
Mm.
and I think with the loss of Bray Wyatt, like I was really really upset by that. But that was almost like Dom's
Breaking point,
connection.
for lack of a better word.
Well, it was his connection to WWE. It was the thing he enjoyed most of all. It was the person he wanted to cheer for the most. So when that was Bray was no longer with us, either when he had to step away before WrestleMania, and then tragically when we lost him, I think understandably Dom needed to take a break. Like he's come back into the fold a lot more now, but we now actually have a new dynamic as well. So Dom can kind of dip in it as and when he wants to. And he's happy doing it that way, and me and the guys support him in that. So it is what it is. It's if he said to me, "Sam, I'm coming back to SmackDown full time," keep it warm for me. I'd be like, right, awesome. But the guy has so much else he has to think about. I wouldn't want to ever pressure him to do that or whatever it'll be, but it will be awesome.
That's very, very cool, my friend. Before we do generic questions and a few wrap-up questions, I did this with Dom last time when I recorded, but I'm going to do it with you as well. I'm going to say a presenter's name, and we're going to do word association. So
Okay,
we're going to start with Andy Spores.
professional.
Uh, any others? I should have said this. 3 words.
Oh, 3 words. Professional, friendly, dedicated.
Uh, Anthony Nayland.
Drunkard. No, I'm joking. Charismatic. Drunkard, charismatic. I'm keeping drunkard out if you watch it. Charismatic. I can't go with friend because I already gave that to Andy. Character. That's all I've got. I mean, share a hotel room with the guy. Character is what jumps
Dan
out.
Hargreaves.
Oh wow, loyal. Um, Essential and wonderful.
Uh, Andy. Dom.
Fascinating, rewarding, and I think just the word awe comes to mind. For me, like I am in awe of him sometimes. Um, Simple as that.
This is a vanity one, but me.
Fun. Uh, I think this is me talking about you. Appreciative. Um, and this isn't a word, but the sky's the limit.
Yeah, right. That's fun. I agree. So as we wrap this up, Sam, before we do generic questions, you talked about not knowing sometimes where your fandom and work split, for lack of a better word. Where is your current wrestling fandom as we record this in February of 2024? Just because I'm not sure when this will air.
I think it's bigger than it's ever been. You know, I really do think it's become. It was already a big part of my life before WrestleSphere and Give Me a Hall. Yeah, even like when I was just a gaming journalist, wrestling was still a huge part of what I did. But making it my work as well has almost legitimized it in some ways. It was always. I don't refer to it as a guilty pleasure anymore because I'm not guilty about it. I own it. I'm a wrestling fan. If you don't like it, fight me. You know, like that is where I am with it. I'm not. I used to be a little bit ashamed of it. Think it was a little bit something I had to hide. I wouldn't want it discussed at parties. I wouldn't wear quite as many wrestling t-shirts as I do now. That is completely out the window now. I will wear this hat in broad daylight, and I'll wear it wherever I want, and things like that. Like so, my fandom is bigger than ever now. My fandom took a lull when I kind of got with Jess, really, because I was so busy being out with a pretty lady and doing all that sort of stuff and doing my degree as well. My degree, so that or it kind of took a back seat, but I sort of brought it back bit by bit. I always watched WrestleMania and the pay-per-views, but I didn't watch Raw and SmackDown back then. There were other reasons for my fandom lapsing as well. The first retirement of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan and Sting, who are all 3 back now, which is incredible.
Oh yeah.
Things like that. That all that sort of stuff kind of made me go. I got really into Finn Balor, and then everything kind of went wrong with him when he got injured and had to relinquish. So I took a bit of a step away, but I got really back into it during, I think, the rise of NXT and things like that, and the Goldberg coming back. Would you believe everyone disrespects Goldberg and calls him Oldberg and things like that? But him and Brock Lesnar finishing their feud, I think WrestleMania 32. That was really like that kind of got me back into it because I always thought that needed another look, and it got the perfect end to that story. Again, we won't talk about some of the things that are going on in the wider wrestling world right now. With some of those names, but yeah, that got me back into it, and since then my fandom's got even stronger. Like the older I get, like I'm a couple of years away from 40, and I'm a bigger wrestling fan than I've ever been.
Where is your, because something we talked about last time is your father-in-law saying when you're going to get a proper job and things like that. So where's
No,
your
he never said that. He never said that. Just to correct, that was other people.
Sorry.
My father-in-law was a bit surprised by my love of gaming and wrestling. I don't think he ever quite envisioned his daughter to be with a guy quite as geeky as me, and so she was. But no, no, he's never ever suggested
Oh,
that.
sorry, I must have got that confused. I do apologize.
No, don't worry, don't worry.
So when you talk about your job now, what's his reaction now? Now that you're, for lack of a better word, successful?
Well, pride now. I think we go for round for dinner around there on a Monday night, and I often have to bring my laptop um, because there's something WrestleSphere related I've got to do. So I kind of sit there quite rudely, just tapping away and getting the start on that work. But then I put it away and we have dinner. But he's very proud. He actually says to me quite a lot, really, really proud that what you've turned this into. Like you've turned your passion into your career. And not a lot of people can say that. He says, so he's very, very proud. I think he understands as well that my generation, or the first generation of like pushing 40 gamers, and and it's wrestling isn't it's still completely geeky and completely nerdy, but it's completely okay to be like that these days. Like the geeks have
Mm,
inherited the earth, so um, I always felt like I was one of the kings of the geeks. So I feel like I've inherited the earth, which is quite nice. So yeah, nothing but support, nothing but love.
that's very, very cool, my friend. Before we do generic questions and the wrap-up question, if this was to all end tomorrow, like you stepped away from the media side in WrestleSphere, Give Me a Whole Year, and even Deserto, what would you want your legacy as a creator to be?
I don't really know. I feel like I'm only just getting started with it, so I'm not thinking about stuff like that. I'm more thinking about building. Like one thing I'm really, really proud of is when Dom and I went to CJAM at University of Central Lancashire, and we took on some. This is just for Soundsphere, nothing to do with Certo or WrestleSphere, but for Soundsphere, we like took on some students, and they
Mm,
did some work for us. So it was really, really nice for me to kind of coach and help some younger guys, help them write their first article and get their first byline, do their first game review or first movie review or something like that, and get that up on Soundsphere, like kind of Dom did for me those years ago. I got to do it
mm.
for other people as well, and to see, like I won't say his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but one among them was a mature student like I was when I was there, and you could tell it's been a journey for him.
Yeah.
Um, and he was really appreciative. And I thought, my God, he was me a few years ago. So I totally understood. So I don't know what my legacy is going to be. I'm only 36. I think I've got a lot more to do. But I like to think with WrestleSphere, we're starting something that will create opportunities and communicate to another generation of journalists that this is something you can do. This is
Yeah.
something you can absolutely have a job doing one day, and it's not like it's not a dream to be a gaming journalist or a wrestling journalist. If you are one of the people on those courses, like at UCLan, doing journalism at uni and things like that, you are in the top bracket of people who are likely to get those positions. So if you love it enough and you work hard enough, your chances of doing that is as high as anybody else's, is not way higher.
Mm. You talked about mentoring the next generation and things like that, and meeting the next generation. How important is it for you to have a hand in seeing the next generation come up and things like that?
Well, I hadn't really thought of it until you, Clan, and Dom and I got talking about it. But it's like I've realised now that I'm no spring chicken. So and with WrestleSphere, with like me being one of its founders, that puts me in an editorial position. It puts me in a position of leadership. So I find myself being in a position where I am kind of showing people certain things, how to maybe optimize an article for SEO, or how to do some clever stuff. So Google clocks an article, or how to word something right. Just things like I find myself doing way more of that, or at least, or maybe going into some articles that other very experienced journalists have written, and then just making sure it's set to our house style that we have, or just little things like that. So it wasn't especially important to me a year or two ago, where now all of a sudden it is, and it is something I think about. But it's also about necessity as well. It's not just altruism on my side. It's a case of like we're not going to be like if that as this thing grows, we are going to need more people, younger, more
Mm.
dynamic people. Like we've got a girl who writes to us, writes for us, who's currently a UCLan student. Like she's fully in the know. She has her own loves in wrestling and like on the indie scene and her own contacts. So it's not more of a case of us mentoring her. In many ways, it's a case of her helping us and bringing something to the table that we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have. So, so yeah, I suppose that it wasn't really something I thought about until I thought, oh my God, I'm pushing 40.
I understand. I understand what you're saying completely. Yeah. So as we look at wrapping this up, Sam, because I do want to be respectful of your time, we're going to do a segment that you've done before, but I'm interested to see if the answers have changed, called generic questions. Those of you that have seen my interviews before will notice where I ask my guest Sam's favorite overall match, favorite overall pay-per-view card, such as Double or Nothing 2019, favorite wrestler's entrance theme, and favorite tag team, and favorite wrestler. So what's your favorite match of all time, Sam?
My favorite match of all time is still the first one I ever saw. I was even talking to my wife about this walking the dog yesterday. She must be sick of hearing about it. Is Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the famous double turn.
Mm.
That to me was just showed to me what wrestling is and what can be. It it just nailed every aspect of the sport that I love. And if I ever see anything kind of come close to matching the psychology and the storytelling in that and the character work in that match, and the work, the actual moves and everything they did in the ring, I get very excited. But that to me is still number one. Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and like those two guys, I just don't know. That should say it all.
And then what about your favorite overall pay-per-view?
At the moment, my favorite, this will have changed because obviously I've been to a lot more pay per views since I've been doing this. Um, my favorite overall pay per view is WrestleMania 39 because it was the first pay per view I went to with a gang of other wrestling fans. We were all there together. We were away in a foreign country together, and that is what made it so special. So that has replaced everything else in my view of favorite pay per views.
What about your favorite wrestler's entrance theme?
Right now, I think I probably would have given you Sting. Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to go with Sting's Metallica Seek and Destroy because he brought it back at All Elite Wrestling's All In 2 in Wembley Stadium last year.
Mm.
I haven't heard Sting use that theme, and Metallica is one of my favorite bands. Dom will roll his eyes at me for saying that, but I love Metallica. I love Seek and Destroy. I love Sting. So seeing him bring back that entrance after 20 years, you might not know this, but Dom recorded my reaction to that and then put it on social media. So
About to say,
I
I
think,
don't know if I should say this, but I have seen that.
yeah, and it's that I've been teased about that relentlessly ever since it happened, but I don't mind because it was worth it. But you see me mark out and like absolutely lose my you know what when I see that, so I'm gonna have to go with Sting, Seek and Destroy.
And then what about your favorite tag team?
My favorite tag team. See, I'm not a massive tag team guy. I never really have been. I think right now they're not even a tag team, an active tag team, but I think the Usos have
Mm.
shown so much in this whole Roman Reigns storyline. Like right now, they're the one I'm most interested in, and they're the one I'm desperate to reunite as well.
Mm.
So copy that.
And then as we wrap this up, Sam, who's your favorite overall wrestler?
My favorite of all time has always been Sting, but in his heyday. Um,
Mm.
my favorite modern wrestler, because like Sting's my favorite of all time, but I think like I'm a big Finn Balor guy. I'm a big Cody Rhodes guy.
Mm.
I've always been a big MJF and Kenny Omega fan over on the other side as well. So I know I'm giving you loads just for one. I'm giving you about
That's
12. But
fine.
in TNA right now, I'm fortunate enough to have met him and interviewed him in Manchester last year. Josh Alexander, I think, is absolutely just insanely good. Sky's the limit for that guy. He's just brilliant. Fun fact: I said to him when I was there, if I was to run away with your belt because it's so heavy, how far do you think I'd get before you caught me and put me in an ankle lock? So I did manage to make him laugh. But yeah, those guys. I think every promotion I have a favorite or a couple of favorites. It's really hard to just commit to one wrestler.
That's very, very cool. Before we do the wrap up question, Sam, I'm curious to know as we wrap this up, do you view your career in wrestling media as you're still young in the game so far as a success?
Yeah, so far, it's a work in progress. I'm very, very happy with the opportunities that we've had. I'm very, very happy with what we've had to been able to do. Um, yeah, there's been ups and downs. Like we do get downs. We do get times where we might not get where we want to get, but that's okay. We're still building WrestleSphere, so we're not looking to be cultaholic yet, or at all. Really, we're kind of doing our own thing. We have our own thing going on. We're not looking to be Wrestling Observer Live. We're not looking to be what's Sean Ross Sapp's thing called Fightful. We're not looking to be any of those things. We're looking to be WrestleSphere, and we're doing that really, really well so far. So yeah, it's we didn't think we would have quite the good fortune that we had, but we did. We've been very lucky in the way that WWE and AEW and TNA all did a UK tour the year of our launch. We were
Yeah.
very, very fortunate about that. We were also fortunate that Dom and myself and Andy all had some connections already in the industry, so we were able to kind of parlay that and get invited to TNA's press shows, AEW stuff, and WWE stuff. More irons in the fire. We're very much hoping to attend the European shows that WWE have got coming up. We're very much hoping to attend as press the All In again in summer. Yeah, we've also got Andy's going to WrestleMania month after next, so it'd be great. We're hoping very much that he gets some press access. He could represent WrestleSphere there, so we're really like crossing our fingers for that. But yeah, we love where we are so far. We're not going to stop. There's a lot more to come, but we are incredibly satisfied with what's happened so far.
That's very, very cool and a beautiful way to wrap this up. So, as we do, Sam, the question I end this show on is I believe as content creators, people with social media, we're sort of going to live forever in some sort of very, very weird way, if you think about the world.
That's
So, it's
terrifying.
one piece of, it is really, isn't it? So, it's one piece of content you're like, I'd like to be remembered for that. Then what is one that you're like, yuck, please forget about?
Oh, right. I'm going to have to plug my most recent interview for WrestleSphere with Havoc and Rosemary of TNA. I know I mentioned it before because that one's got a lot of love on social media and online. Um, they had fun doing it. I had fun doing it. That's what that interview epitomizes WrestleSphere. We had a good conversation. We had a laugh. I asked them some stuff they didn't anticipate. They all come away from that interview thinking, "Wow, that was different from some of the others." So that one as well. So it's a nice plug for WrestleSphere. Go and have a look on our YouTube for that interview, or if you want to read the article that we made around it, go on WrestleSphere's website. Um, and one I think, get me away from that was probably, and Dom will disagree with me, but it's probably my first stream ever that I ever did. It was Bound for Glory. TNA's Bound for Glory. Pay per view was great. Dom was great. I was a bit of a rabbit in the headlights. I kind of sat in a dark room in my office with a laptop facing me one way and the show on the big screen. Where now I don't bother with any of that. I have computer set up this way, computer set up that way. It's a bit more professional and looks good. But because I was such a rabbit in the headlights, it would probably be that one. I go back and cringe when I watch that.
That's very, very cool. As always, Sam, it's been great catching up, pal. Thank you for another great conversation. But plug yourself. Where can the good people find you, your work, etc.?
I think I've done enough plugging on this one, but I'll because you've invited me to, I'll do it again. So you can see me writing about all things gaming. The geekier the better on Deserto.com. We're big gaming website, big entertainment website. Streamers, esports, all that sort of stuff. I'm one of the gaming guys, so I write guides, features, reviews, and some news as well. But for the wrestling side of things, which I imagine everyone here is more interested in as well, WrestleSphere, I'm deputy editor over there. You can watch our interviews, read our articles, our features. We do a bit of news, but it's mostly original content, interviews and features. We also put them on YouTube for people to go and watch. So if you subscribe to our YouTube page, you will see lots of regular interviews added to that. And then there's Give Me a Hull Yeah, which is a podcast that's also just kind of being fans, talking to our friends about what we think. We do watch alongs as well. So if you want to come and join us to watch Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, or any of the pay-per-views, I'll be covering Elimination Chamber live on Give Me a Hull Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that.
This might have gone out after that. I will be totally honest.
Oh, well, fair enough. Maybe covering WrestleMania and things like that as well, but that's okay. I've got an interview coming up with Simon Gotch for TNA,
Ooh.
so that might be going live by the time, by the time this goes out. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
It's well worth doing, guys. Not only one of the hardest working people in this game, but one of the nicest as well. So if you guys like this, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talks Irish on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter or X at Tom Talks Irish, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye now.